Another month, another anniversary I chose to cover. Once again, being unprepared and overworked as it is from UNCUT and other things going on around me. What do I got so far? Oh, no, this isn't working out at all. Man, maybe I should just cut my losses and forget about my own 10th anniversary. I mean, what is there really to say? 10 years ago, I created a web series to replace a web series that I had done that was a replacement for a show I worked on with my best friend, Unknown Salvation. I mean, there's not really much to that I can really expand upon. Ransom Reviews was the result of 2 previous web shows that kind of fell into obscurity. Nothing more, nothing less. Yeah, I think I'm not going to have anything for this 10th anniversary special, so I'm just done. Maybe a good old-fashioned game of Mario would clear my head. Japanese version, of course. What other way is there to go? Oh. What the fuck?
Oh my god, is this me in the future?
Is that me in the past?
Wow, awesome. Hello, future me.
No, this can't be happening. I must be working too hard.
Might I ask what year I crossed paths with you in?
It's 2022.
Wow, 10 years in the future.
This cannot be happening.
So, what's it like 10 years in the future? Are we successful cartoonists yet? Do we have our own animated series or two?
Hell no. We still just do YouTube videos.
Damn it. Well, has the world become a better place in the 10 years between us?
Not quite.
What the hell happened? What's changed since 2012? It can't be that awful. You cannot be fucking serious. Alright, what about you? How's the Simpsons collection coming along? We have to be up to season 26 by now in our DVD collection.
Actually, they stopped making Simpsons DVD sets a few years back, with season 19 being the last one released.
Oh, come on. Now what are the fans gonna do? Pirate the latter post-season 20 episodes? I mean, the show's still on 10 years from now, correct?
Yeah, it is. Season 34 is set to drop in September, and no, fans don't have to pirate the series. The entire run, for the most part, is on Disney+.
Wait, Disney? Does Disney end up owning The Simpsons in the future?
They own all of 20th Century Fox.
Shit! Next you're gonna be telling me that Discovery Channel is a part of Warner Brothers now, and that CBS and Paramount re-merged. Oh, come on! Okay, so other than The Simpsons, we've still been getting other TV show seasons. Okay, we now have Blu-ray, it seems. Nice. How about games? Are we still collecting games in the future?
Actually, yes. I now have over 700 games in my collection spanning over 45 years of gaming history. I mean, this shelf alone has GameCube, PlayStation 2, Wii, Wii U, Saturn, and PlayStation 4.
Wait, we own a Wii U?
We own 2 of those, by the way.
What about the PS4?
Yeah, and no, we just own the games.
Oh.
So anyway, see down here we have Dreamcast, PlayStation 1, NES, SNES, N64, Sega Genesis, DS, 3DS, and Atari 2600.
What's on that bottom shelf out of curiosity? That can't be more games, I assume.
No, that's just my anime collection, VHS tapes, DVDs, Blu-rays of various series from the 60s up to the modern day. There are some Shonen Jumps behind all of that as well.
Ah, and what's on that shelf next to it?
Imports.
What?
Yeah, imports, Japanese games I have for the Famicom, Super Famicom, Sega Mega Drive, Famicom Disk System, Japanese N64 and GameCube up there. On the other shelf, there's also Japanese Switch games.
What's the Switch?
Oh, that's right, it's Nintendo's most recent console.
So the Wii U was a success.
Okay, let's move on, alright? We have PSP, Saturn, Dreamcast, PlayStation, Wii, and Wii U. We also have Japanese Game Boy, Game Boy Color and Game Boy Advance games in that tote, along with WonderSwan and PC Engine.
PC Engine, WonderSwan, Famicom? What the fuck happened to us?
What do you mean?
What do I mean? Look, where's our Simpsons merch? Why doesn't it get its own shelf? Instead, all that I and everyone else who ever possibly sees our series is ever going to see are these Japanese words plastered right behind you. I mean, next you're going to be telling me that we no longer call this ransom reviews anymore. You can't be fucking serious. You changed the name of the series? What's it called now? Imported Monthly?
No. That was a separate series I did that overtook another show that I worked on.
I can't believe you. What is the show called now?
Game-O-Rama.
Okay, that's actually good. I'll give you that. But why? Why the Japanese games? Why the manga? Why the anime? Don't get me wrong, I like anime as much as the next guy, but not to this extent.
Well, just wait a few years you'll be covering anime like I did.
What is it about Japanese things that I end up liking so much?
Well, let me talk a bit about that.
It's no surprise that for those who've been watching this series for, 10 years, that the series has been slowly shifting its focus from covering cartoons and games to anime and, well, games still, but more or less their Japanese equivalents. So what caused this slow shift between the three versions of the show? Boy, was that the million-dollar question I pondered over for the last couple of years. Yeah, I wasn't oblivious to this change that was to me slowly but surely inevitable, but I will admit, to an extent, unnaturally quicker than most would intend.
So, what you're saying is that us being a weeb is an end-all conclusion to our lives.
Well, in a way, yes, but it was pushed in a way based on some outside forces.
Outside forces?
Alright, let me ask you. Are you driving yet?
No.
Okay. Do you have any money you saved on the side for stuff like games and TV seasons?
No, I only get the money on my birthday and Christmas. Those are my two periods that I usually spend large.
Well, when you start working and driving, you'll get it.
That makes no sense.
Shut up.
Now, understandably, many people may have their own reasons for enjoying the means of anime and importing, but for me, however, it's been a kind of unexplainable fascination with Japanese pop culture in general. I've been into Japanese things since I was 10, and for a brief period in my early teens, I somewhat abandoned that without rhetoric, focusing my attention on my newfound appreciation for shows like The Simpsons, South Park, Beavis and Butthead, and Family Guy. However, like a lot of teens going through phases, I also eventually found myself slowly backing out of the primetime animation phase of my life. That's not to say that I hate these shows or got rid of the season sets I collected during that time, but I did find myself slowly collecting the merch less and less. Hell, by the time I entered my final year of high school, I was getting back into my video game collecting, finding games at secondhand shops. But I can hear you all saying, what does this have to do with Japan? Well, at that same point in time, I came across episodes of Cowboy Bebop on YouTube.
Uploaded illegally.
Of course.
And that started to reinvigorate my appreciation for anime, leading me to look for more shows and mangas to discover years down the road.
Okay, that explains the shelf of mangas and anime things, but what about the shelf of all these games?
Well, that's pretty straightforward. As a collector, I eventually got into importing.
Ah.
Yeah, as time went on, I became a connoisseur of game collecting. But I, of course, started where every video game collector starts, the NES, or in this case, the Famicom. 6 years and 30 Famicom and Famicom Disk System games later, I now have 2 shelves completely devoted to imports for various consoles. Not even just Famicom. There's Super Famicom, N64, Sega Saturn, Sega Dreamcast, PSP, PS1, Wii, Wii U, Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, PC Engine CD, Sega Mega Drive, WonderSwan, and even more recent imports for consoles like the Nintendo Switch.
How much did doing imports cost you in the last 6 years?
Sometimes a little, sometimes a lot. It depended on the game. But if I was to give a rough estimate right now over the cost of that particular area of the collection, I guess I would say around $3,000.
Jesus!
But like I said, it depended on the game, and this actually leads to possibly my overall reason as to why I spend that much time and money on this aspect of pop culture.
Looking through my collection of imports, you will find the common titles that many associate with general video gaming, like any of the games from the Mario and Zelda series, along with a few of the lesser known but still appreciated franchises like Sonic, Metroid, and Animal Crossing. But for every one of those games that you may come across, you may end up coming across a game that you may have never heard of, but the cover or artwork itself may fascinate you. For me, those were games like Marvelous and Other Treasure Island, For Frog the Bell Tolls, the Wonder Project J series, Battle Golf for Yui, The Mysterious Murasame Castle. Honestly, the list can go on. What's funny is that same rule could be applied to anime and manga. As much as I love Cowboy Bebop, exploring outside of that one show led me to more unknown and then underappreciated series like Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid, Azumanga Daioh, Yusuri Yatsura, Majoko Megu-chan, amongst many other titles. Both American and Japanese pop cultures have these gems in the sea of similarities. It's just Japan, for the most part, has more. Sadly, the real factor that plays into this statement is the fact that the US doesn't fully respect new and original IPs. Really think about it, in the last 25 years, how many new TV pilots and shows lasted long enough to make a cultural impact? And how many were dropped after failing to hit the numbers of successful, already established hits running around the same time? The truth is, we've honestly lost out on a lot of TV shows over this amount of time, and yes, most can be seen as derivative of already established works and rightfully deserving of their inevitable cancellation, but it's the diamonds in that rough, once again, that always shine out in all honesty and should have been given a real chance. Shows like Clerks Animated, The Modifiers, Constant Pain, The Amazing Screw-O-Don Head, Eltingville Club should have been given real shots at becoming culturally relevant. Now, is that to say these shows would have been absolutely dominating the TV screens? No, in some cases not really, but they could have been seen as trend-setting shows that could have defined TV for an entire generation, comparatively to shows like The Simpsons, South Park, SpongeBob, and The Big Bang Theory. We in America instead view our pop culture on retreading the same properties and icons since the 1920s and 30s. In all honesty, think about how many reboots, revivals, and remakes we've gotten in TV and film since the 2000s. It's been a lot, and what's funny is that most of them are for the most part seen as inferior and subpar to their original counterparts. In other cases, it could be one of the three Hollywood R's to completely change the narrative of the original series by taking the project in a completely different direction. Whatever the case is, we've seen this happen a lot, especially since the late 90s and early 2000s. Now, truthfully, Japan is also guilty of pulling off the three Hollywood R's as well with reboots of classic animes, tokusatsus, and dramas.
But the funny thing is, in Japan, that's often a rarity. Most shows in Japan are either new IPs running their original run, or classic shows that just pulled The Simpsons and lasted way longer than anyone would have expected, or classic shows rerunning on TV to fill afternoon and late night time slots. Although with that last one, that's usually more reserved for broadcast satellite networks.
So is that then the reason why you like Japanese pop culture as opposed to American? They just don't pull a reboot, revival, or remake as often?
In a general sense, yeah. I mean, think about it. Here in the US, there aren't that many shows that have lasted decades. The Simpsons, South Park, Family Guy, these shows lasted for the most part 20 years. Hell, with The Simpsons, it's been on nearly 35. But on the other hand, Japan as well keeps stock of running and established shows like Saze-san and Doraemon, which have been running for well over 40 to 50 years now, and works like One Piece and Detective Conan, which have been running the gambit of hitting the 20-plus marker.
If you want to talk about reboots and revivals, there's currently only been 4 major projects that have been given the treatment. Neon Genesis Evangelion, with a new movie to wrap up a 4-part retelling of the original 1990s series, Naruto with its sequel series Boruto centering on the future offspring of the main cast from the original show, and Rumiko Takahashi's been very busy with the Inuyasha sequel series Yashahime and the upcoming reboot of her classic 80s series Yusuri Yatsura.
And if you want to talk about tokusatsu, well, that shit constantly reboots and revives their series every couple years or so, but never to the point where they disregard the original series and characters.
So that's it. When Japan does a reboot, they respect the original source material. That's why you appreciate Japanese pop culture.
In a general sense, yeah.
For some reason, I really don't buy that as a reasonable excuse. There has to be some other reason we changed.
No, there really wasn't.
Come on, what was it?
I'm not telling you.
What was it?
If I told you, I would risk changing our future, okay? Everything else I've told you so far are events and things that I know for certain that we can't alter, no matter how much we would want to. But when one single reason for why my taste in gaming and entertainment changed is too personal for me to ever want to tell you, in the fears that you could misinterpret it and cause everlasting damage to the events in discussion. In all honesty, thinking about telling you this is giving me the worst case scenario that would play out in my head. And what boggles me even more right now is the fact that you never once brought up how we've changed in the last 10 years. We've gotten bolder, we've gotten fatter, and sure, we may have gotten better at our content, but at what cost? The cost of having the energy to produce multiple reviews a week? Fuck, even in a month? This show takes at least 2 to 3 weeks to create one episode. One. Even then, that's not including the time we now have to take to produce a Let's Play series.
We do a Let's Play series?
Yes! We do 3 to 4 episodes a week of that, playing a shit ton of games just to please the YouTube algorithm. The recording is done in one night, and the editing only takes about 45 minutes. It's the thumbnails that take the most time usually, 2 to 4 hours.
Damn.
But it gets done, and I think I lost track of the argument, god damn it. Look, the truth is, sometimes things happen that causes one to change. It could be a personal reason or an aesthetic shift in tastes. The truth is, no one can really like one thing for a really long time. Sure, some can, but not everyone.
We can have points in our lives when we see a game or a TV show or even a movie as the best thing ever, and thus our hooked attachment for the moment. Whether it's liking something for its scenario, genre, or even characters. This attachment can't last forever, however, and people eventually go from obsessing over something to just being a casual meme one comes across every once in a while, to even sometimes just abandoning it. For most people, tastes in entertainment and pop culture change. Properties once seen as very popular and sometimes even influential eventually faded into either obscurity or casualty. Just another thing we either forget or just come to know for the rest of our lives. For me, that was what happened with shows like The Simpsons, South Park, and Beavis and Butthead. Shows I once obsessed over, eventually becoming just another part of my everyday life, falling more into the latter category than the former. Now I've been re-obsessing over my fondness for Japanese things, like I did back when I was 10, getting more into anime and manga, both old and new, as opposed to only seeing stuff like Cowboy Bebop. But surprisingly, my gaming taste really didn't change that much. If anything, my taste in gaming had more or less expanded. Not only do I like the work still from companies like Nintendo, but I've grown a better appreciation for companies like Sega, and smaller, lesser-known companies like Hudson, Success, and Treasure. Hell, half of these smaller companies follow me back on Twitter. Companies like Beep, Treasure, City Connection, and Ancient. Companies that, while not really household names like Nintendo or Sega, still made, or in some cases released, some beloved and classic games. In the end, what I'm really trying to say is that the reason I really like Japanese pop culture is just because my taste in entertainment changes and works from overseas, whether it's a show or a game, kinda came in at the right time and filled that need of change, offering me stuff that could be seen to some as casual or too out there, but to me feels like something fresh and engaging. And while I will admit the anime and Japanese gaming communities can have their issues sometimes, seriously, please, I have no shame in admitting that I became an otaku.
Let me retaliate though, a positive otaku.
I can understand if you out there have been watching this series since the beginning and have been questioning why this shift has been slowly occurring since seasons 5 through 7. Understand that the reason for this change was based in part on my taste changing.
It's also because Japanese pop culture can sometimes just have the more interesting story behind it. Trust me, I have a lot of great ideas for episodes coming up for the rest of this season and the future seasons to come. Most of these episodes will surprise you with what subject I researched deep into. To conclude this diatribe of words reflecting on the change over the last 10 years, the reason young mean why the show has changed is because we have changed. Our shows take longer to produce because I've been slower. And trust me, the further you get into the series, the more you'll understand.
Okay, but just give me an idea as to what the event is that causes this change.
Let's just say, when you meet her, you'll know.
Okay, you know what? I think I'm done playing Mario for tonight.
Yeah, it's getting late, and now I want to do some thinking. Don't forget what I said.
I won't. Goodbye, Tony.
Goodbye. Oh, and me? You're doing good so far. Not great, but good. Keep it up.
Same. Okay, bye.
Wow, that was something. I can't believe how fucking cringe I was back then.
this Miss Kobayashi stuff. What's that all about?
Oh, it's an anime we come to love in the next, 5 years, almost as much as Cowboy Bebop, actually.
Is it any good? I know it's 2012 here, but I've never heard of that series.
Really? Well, the manga comes out in 2 years, but you know what? Forget the timeline. You have to experience this at least once.